Hello everybody, Mac here. Welcome back to the show. What we are taking a look at today is something that is fairly special for the Action Force line. This is the Valaverse Action Force Bone Collector version 2. As you can see right up front on the box here, it is their 100th figure in the line. Well, I don't know if it's 100th figure. It is their 100th item in the line. And they wanted to do something different, they wanted to do something special, and what they came up with was a version 2 of Bone Collector. Now, I don't know anything about Bone Collector. I didn't get the first version of Bone Collector. To be completely honest, the first version of Bone Collector didn't really do much for me. But there are some things about the second version that I like. There are some things about the second version I can already tell you I'm going to dislike. But there is also the issue that it is the 100th item milestone. And that's pretty special no matter what the collection is, no matter what the line is. And for that reason alone, I wanted to pick this up. Now, originally, this was some sort of convention exclusive, not a single convention exclusive, but you could get them at the conventions in person while Valaverse was going around. I forget what convention it was that they unveiled it on. But after they had finished selling at the conventions that they were going to market this at, they put it up on the Valaverse website for order for the rest of them, for what they had left. Now, those went up for order a few weeks ago, time of recording, and it got here rather quickly. I'm kind of impressed, actually, at how fast they got it to me. Now, on the website right now, they are currently sold out, but it looks like they may do another run of it because it doesn't quite say sold out. It says coming soon. So I will put a link to that in the description below if you want to check it out. I think this is going to be another one of those deals where they sold out of it. It was selling so well. It's such a special item that I'm not going to be surprised if they do a second or third run of this. Now, on to the reason why it's in this box right here. This is just a blind box. And the reason they're doing this is because there are two versions. There's the standard version and there is a bloody version that I think is like, it was something like 1 in 100 was the bloody version, or maybe 1 in 1,000. I can't really remember. So I don't know what version I have right now. I was going to unbox it and we were going to take a look at it together. And I gotta be honest, if I get the bloody version, I think I might be a little upset because I'm probably one of the few that just wants the standard version. But the box that it comes with, for being plain Jane like this, is actually kind of cool the way that they did this. With just the brown packaging, the Action Force logo up front, the 100 underneath it, and then on the back here, we have the Action Force logo in sort of like, you know, how the figure stands are. And that's it. There's no barcode, there's no markings, there's no indication. There's nothing on the outside of this box to look at or scan or anything that would give any hint as to what is inside it. So right now, here we go. We're going to cut this open and we're going to take a look at which version of Bone Collector that I have, because I also believe this is the first figure I'm going to have of the Action Force line on their new card back packaging, instead of being boxed in. So let's open this up. And, okay, that's the back. Let's take a look at what we got. I have the standard version. Good. Like I said, I'm probably one of the few that would want the standard version over the bloodied version. And this is the new packaging they have. They're putting it up on a card back. Oh, it's not punched either. Now I'm kind of wishing I had bought two to keep one packaged in. But we're going to rip this thing open. So this is actually really cool. I like how Bone Collector, it has all the bones in the background. We have Bone Collector 100 right here. A really nice blister card, or blister bubble, that shows us everything that's in there. Valaverse logo. Like I said, it's not punched up here, which, that's cool. I like that they did that. Then let's take a look on the back. What we have here, we have a pretty good shot of the character, of the figure. This is an illustration. This isn't like a digital render or anything. And then he has his file card down here and his action points, which I think that's actually an increased amount of action points for this figure too. I don't remember what the standard action points are for a Action Force figure, but this is all very nice. This is a great presentation This is a really cool look for their new blister packaging right here. And for the 100th figure, I think this looks really good. Like I said, I dig that they didn't punch out the card up here. It's going to be a shame because I'm ripping this thing open, but I also like how they have this little nub piece down here. Oh, let's get the hair out of here. I also like how they have this little nub piece down here so that if you put it on the shelf, it doesn't stand straight up, but it will hold position instead of falling forward so that you can just set it on the shelf like this, especially if you don't want to punch it. I keep going back to that, but I think that's really cool. This has never, like, this is cool when I see it. This has never been that important to me, but I know there's a lot of in-box or on-card collectors that if they can get the unpunched version, they definitely prefer that. As a matter of fact, I could even see some people that pry this open, like I'm going to do, but still keep the card and that unpunched version. So, I think that's pretty much all we need to talk about for the packaging right now. So let's get this open and let's take a look at the Valaverse Action Force Bone Collector version 2 100th figure. So I wish I would have actually filmed doing this, but the glue that holds the bubble on to the card back isn't that heavy, that it actually peeled off rather easily so that you can maintain the card. This is also a pretty heavy stock too. This isn't a real flimsy stock like how the retro line of G.I.Joe first came out. This is a pretty decent cardboard stock for this card back right here. Okay, here he is, Bone Collector version 2, out of his packaging. Both of them. And putting the tape measure to him, we can see that he is roughly 6¼ inches tall to the top of his dome. Before we go anywhere else with this figure, let's address the most obvious issue that I have with this, and that is this right here. This open mouth, action face going on. Normally, I don't have an issue with this as long as it is the second head sculpt. As it stands with this figure, this is the only head sculpt that comes with Bone Collector, so he's stuck in this perpetual open mouth, you know, battle cry look. And I get it. I understand what the rationale is behind only giving him one head sculpt. One, it cuts down on the cost of the figure. But two, since there was already a version 1 Bone Collector, I'm willing to bet the idea is that you can just pop this head off and swap it with your more neutral Bone Collector head from the version 1 figure. However, for somebody like me, or somebody that missed out on the first wave Bone Collector, on the first wave of Action Force, this doesn't really do much for for the collector. That Bone Collector only comes with this face. I also can't help but notice that the eyes are perpetually looking up. So to get like a forward-looking glare, it's supposed to be the head down type look like this, which with the eyes coming out looking over the top and the mouth open, that's kind of an awkward look for him. I would have preferred either a second head sculpt that's a more neutral look, B, closed mouth with the eyes up, or C, eyes down, mouth open. This double combination here, and I realize this is a nitpick, this may just be me, there's probably a lot of people that don't mind this, but when we get his mask on, it raises other issues too, which we'll take a look at. Now, as for the rest of him, I think he looks pretty good. There's, much like Action Force, there's a lot of reuse here. I believe these are reused, the legs are reused from the Urban Commando. I don't know if the boots are reused or not. I really do dig the boots, though, with all the armored plating right here. I think the boots look great. I also like the bracers on his arms right here, especially with all of the crisscross marks, like all of the battle damage. However, on both sides of the figure, I don't know if you can see on camera, but you can see on his forearms that there is some silver paint rub from the bracers getting on the forearms as well. Now, the body armor right here, I think this is a really cool look for the body armor. I don't know if this is reuse from something else for Action Force, or if they're going to be using this for another Action Force figure somewhere down the line. I would like to think that this is going to stay unique to Bone Collector version 2, if for no other reason. It's the one thing that's like not reuse right now, and it really helps the figure to stand out. Because if we pop the head off and we lift this arm, you can see back here that the seal for the armor isn't nearly as seamless as it has been for other more recent armors. But we can just pop that off, and we can slide the armor up over the headpiece, or up over the neck piece, and then we put this on, and you can see that it is a basic Valaverse infantry buck underneath the armor, which is fine. This buck has served them well. They've gotten a lot of mileage out of this, and they're probably going to get a lot more mileage out of it. That it has those 2 points of articulation, the ball joint down here at the waist, and the ab cut right in there. And I like the coloring. I like the choice, because I believe, and that's what this symbol on his chest is for. I believe that he's part of the garrison, I think. I'm not 100% on Action Force lore, but I think he's part of the garrison, and I think it's cool that they made this color top, this color shirt, kind of matching the colors of the garrison guards that are going to be coming back out. It kind of matches color-wise. Now, if we pop this hand off and we take off this bracer on his right arm, you can see that he also has his tattoos down there on his arm. So that's a cool option too, that you could display him with like one bracer and the tats showing. But once again, right there, you can also see where there's that silver paint smudge from the bracers. So let's get our bone collector back together, and we will take a better look at him and see how he functions with all of his gear on. So now that we have him back together, let's talk a little bit more about this armor. That I really like the coloring of this armor. Like with the bracers, I love this this burnished metal look that they have going on here, and I love that, I don't know if you can see, but there's also like scars on the armor plates as well, like he's been taking some hits in battle right there. We have it on the back as well. I really like the pattern of the armor right here, like where all of the plates are at. It kind of gives you that look that this could still be flexible on the battlefield. Now, one thing that I don't like is that I feel like we're running into a lot of the same problems with this armor that we ran into with the first armor that I had, that we've seen on like the Swarm and the Steel Brigade figures, that I feel like these pegs are going to keep popping out. This is a very soft rubber. It's not as stiff at the connection points as like something like Warpath Eclipse or Pandora, or even like the blowback, Sniper blowback was. This is sort of like going back to the very soft rubber. The whole figure in general feels like they're using a different grade of plastic for this figure. And I don't know if it's just for this figure or if it's going to be for the rest of Series 5 moving forward. And we'll take a better look at that as well once we start playing around with the extra hands that he comes with. That I feel like it's not as stiff of a plastic. It's not as brittle feeling of a plastic. Not that I ever thought the Action Force figures were brittle, but if you have any of the Action Force figures, especially like leading up to Series 5, I think you'll know what I mean. That there was always this feeling that like they weren't quite as, I don't know if, they just had a very different feel, a very light feel to the plastic. And I think they're going with a different grade that is a little bit more flexible, has a little bit more give, and that is why this may not be as stiff as some of the armor previously would have been. But let's get on to the oh, and also I always dig boot treads on the bottom, and some really deep treads on the bottom. Going along, I love these boots. I think this is like, this may be my favorite part of the figure. And that's nothing against the rest of the figure. I think they just did a real good job on the footwork right here. Now, let's take a look at the articulation, that the head will do a full 360 spin. He can look up very well. He can look down very well. There's not a whole lot of tilt side to side, and that's because we saw that it is the ball joint on a swivel, which kind of wish G.I. Joe would go back to that. The arms will do a full 360 spin. He has a butterfly joint. It has some decent amount of travel, not a whole lot, but it works for what it is. Arms will come up to 90. He has a bicep swivel. He has double jointed elbows that with these biceps, hold on for a second, let me get this moving a little. That with these biceps, the vambrances, the arm guards right here, get in the way of really closing it up. Luckily, though, we saw that these are very easily removed if you want to take them off. Now, we did see the articulation of the torso joint when I took the armor off, that this is basically your standard Valaverse buck. He'll do a full 360 spin at the waist. He can crank back. He can look forward. The advantage of having this really soft rubber is that it will bend with the figure. But you see, there we go. It's coming apart already. I have to heat that up to get that to pop back in. He has the ball joint at the waist that will let you get a little bit of movement. It goes back a little bit. It goes forward a little bit. But as with any Action Force figure, that ab crunch right in there is really doing the majority of the heavy lifting for the articulation. Drop down legs that will come forward way much, will go back pretty good, and will come out to the side almost to 90. Pop them back in. We have the thigh cut. We have double jointed legs that are a little beefy, but they still have some decent travel right in there. Boot cut. Ankles will rock back fairly well. Ankles will rock forward fairly well. And we have a forward-facing pin for some rocker. So out of the box, our version 2 Bone Collector comes with a pair of trigger hands. He comes with a pair of clenched fists that truthfully look a little small for the figure. He has a pair of gripping hands. And finally, he has a pair of the Action Force signature gun cradling hands. And this is what I wanted to show you. That typically these hands have always been very stiff, very rigid in all of the figures that I've picked up. But as you can see, there is bend and give to this now, that they're not going to snap off and break. I wish I had another Valaverse figure out right now to show you what I mean, but for the most part, these have always been a little stiff, and now there's some give to them. This is just another indication, I feel, that they've gone to a softer plastic on their figures. Now, the first thing we're going to take a look at as far as accessories go is Bone Collector's mask. And I believe he had a mask in the first version, but it was more of like a human skull type mask, whereas this is basically a ram skull that he has turned into a mask, which I really like this. I like the artwork on it, I like the paint apps on it. I like the sculpt of it. I love how it's not asymmetrical, how this side is beat up a little bit more than this side. Like this side still has teeth and the full curl of the ram's horn, whereas this side, you can see there was some damage done and there's a chunk taken off of the horn. Like whatever it is that killed this ram came in from this side. I think that looks really cool. I really like the look of that. Like I said, I do like the paint apps. I like how they have this black wash, this highlighting in here, just showing off the sculpt of it, showing off the sculpt of the mask, all of the little details, all of the little crevices, the broken nose, everything looks great. Now this fits very easily over Bone Collector, like so. And this is what I mean by like the eyes kind of looking up, that like to get a decent look out of him, now you angle the helmet down a little bit, or the mask down a little bit, and that is a very menacing look coming down. You can still see the open mouth off to the side right there, but that looks cool. I'm not gonna lie, that looks cool. This is a fairly loose fit on Bone Collector's head, and I'm okay with that because I don't like whenever you get helmets or masks or things like that that are an overly tight fit, because when you put them on and you take them off, inevitably it's going to rub off some of the paint apps of the face sculpt. But with this, I feel like it's loose enough that that won't be an issue until later on down the line. Like eventually there's stuff that's going to rub off, but I don't feel like it's going to be something that happens right away. So to get that eyes forward look, you have to tilt the head down a little bit so that now he's looking straight ahead. And that is an intimidating look. I really dig the mask that they gave him for this. Now, like I said, I believe the first one was a more human bone skull looking mask. It would be interesting to see what that looked like on this, or what this looked like on the version 1. Next up, we have Bone Collector's Backpack, and there's not a whole lot to this. It's basically just an ammo box for him to wear for his weapon on his back. Now, this does not open up. This doesn't have space in it to carry things like some of the other, or like all of the other Valaverse backpacks have. Also, the peg is very bendy, very flexible. Like, this reminds me a lot of the Hasbro, the G.I. Joe back pegs, that there's a lot of give to that instead of it being a stiff peg like you normally see on the Action Force figures. On the back here, I believe this is the symbol of the Citadel, and we have the two straps going around the ammo crate. We have these twin loops right here that are going to be holding his machete, which we'll take a look at in a moment. But this does peg in very easily into the figure. And because it's a stiff box, there's a little bit of angle back on it, but I don't mind that. I do like how it looks on him. It kind of doesn't go with the rest of his look, and I'm okay with that because it really is like he just picked up an ammo box, strapped it to his back, and now he's just carrying that around on the battlefield. Next up, we have his machete right here, and we've seen this before. This has been in, I think, a few... Has this been in a weapons pack? I think it has. Also, we saw this with the Pandora upgrade kit. We've seen this machete before. This is a tried and true mold for Valaverse. Once again, I really dig the black handle with the burnished metal of the blade right there, giving it that weathered look, giving it that aged look. These are his trigger hands, but he still looks good holding it. It fits very well. The burnished metal of the blade goes with his armor, which I really like. And those straps that are on the backpack is so that he can carry the machete just strapped to the ammo crate right there. Fits in like so. Now, my only issue with this is that you can see it wasn't really made specifically for this. They just put some loops on it, that there's a bend to it. And that if you keep it in there, I feel like you're eventually going to just have a bent blade. You can have it rising up a little, but there's still going to be a slight bend. I think if they would have cut this in a little closer, you wouldn't have had that. And last but not least, we have his main weapon, the minigun. Okay, so cards on the table. This is my one issue with the figure. I am not a fan of human figures toting around a minigun like this. Maybe the bats, maybe the T-800 because he was an android. Sure, no problem. I understand Jesse Ventura carried one in Predator, and I was a kid. I thought that was cool. It's still cool, but going forward, realistically, no one could handle this. The physics of it alone, when the barrel starts spinning, it makes it nearly impossible to carry these things, to hand carry these things. There's also no power pack with this. I know I'm being pedantic. I know I am. And yes, I know there are YouTube videos that you can look at where people are firing miniguns, but those aren't really miniguns. Those are micro guns. They don't have nearly the rate of fire or the impact that these things have. And other than looking a little cool, they're kind of useless. It's kind of like a big chunky thing to carry just to look BA. You would do better toting around an assault rifle than you would that thing. This, I get what they were going for. I get why they gave him this. And it is a decent sculpt, I have to admit. I really like the look of this. They did a better job on this than I think Hasbro did. Than I think Hasbro did with their minigun. As a matter of fact, the minigun that came with Heavy Artillery Roadblock was one of the issues that I had with it, which is what made me really want to get a Ma Deuce for him. But I like, oh man, I keep dropping it. I like the look of it. I like the handle coming off. I like the sculpt on here. I like how this is all black with the burnished metal for the multi-barrels. I like the black tipping and the black bands that go around it. I think they did a really good job on the sculpt of this weapon. And let's be honest, like Valaverse, since the beginning, has always had a real good meticulous eye for the design work of their weapons. But this is definitely something. And we get a lot of accessories to go along with this, not the least of which is this big Horkin blast effect right here that does fit into the barrels. Doesn't really fit in there flush. You can see there's some gappage right there, but a big blast effect for this big beast. I think I put that in the wrong barrel. Oh, the barrels spin. I never knew that. There we go. The barrels do rotate. I just found that out now. Breaking news. I know they've had the minigun out in a weapons pack. I don't have that weapons pack. This is the first one I got. So the barrels spin, and that looks good. That looks real good. You can really see that like the barrels are straight. That's the other thing with the Hasbro minigun. The one that they use on the Ram as well as Heavy Artillery Roadblock is that you kind of don't want to spin the barrels because then you can see how bent the barrels are when it's rotating. But there you go. You have the blast effect, you have the rotating barrels. So let's take this off. We also have this piece right here, that this actually came in the packaging in 2 pieces. That you have an ammo drum and you have the belt feed coming out of the ammo drum. I feel like this is going to be something that I'm going to lose, and I do wish this was all one piece, like how they do with their SAW ammo boxes. But this can pop into the bottom here, and then the belts feed into the side of the weapon, and he can, if you don't want him wearing the ammo pack, the ammo crate on his back, you have the option of this barrel feed down here. I kind of dig that it's this green, it's like this ammo box green, olive drab, makes it stand out from the rest of the weapon. I like that. I think that's a nice touch. I think the copper casings on the belt feeding into the weapon look really good. I also really like this effect that they have with it, where you can pop this into the side, and it's basically just the minigun ejecting shell casings as you're hosing the enemy, or as you're, like, you know, laying down fire, just defoliating the jungle. But I do think that is cool. I just noticed though that the feed and the round ejections don't match up. Shouldn't they be on the same plane? Oh well. But I do like this feed, the shells being ejected out the side. I think that's a really good touch. Now we can pop this off. We can pop that off. Let's take that off. And we also have this enclosed feed belt right here. And this is a little tricky to get in there. It's a very tight fit that this feeds into the side. Come on, come on. This feeds into the side. It's a soft rubber for the feeder belt, so you kind of have to finagle it a little, being delicate, not to snap anything. That fits there. And then this other side fits into the ammo box that Bone Collector is carrying on his back. And that would be his ammo feed right there, which I kind of like. I like that version better a lot more than just the ammo drum on back. And as always, we get the Action Force figure stand with the diamond tread, the Action Force logo built into it. We have 4 pegs, we have 4 character pegs, and then we also have the slot to put the to put the file card for display. And now for size comparison, here he is beside the Valaverse Action Force Desert Rat and Pandora. Here he is beside Hasbro G.I.Joe Classified Series Stalker and Heavy Artillery Roadblock. Here he is beside Hasbro Marvel Legends World War II Captain America from the Riders series and Lady Deathstrike. Here he is beside Lanyard Toys City Hunter Predator and Xenomorph Drone. Here he is beside Mattel Masters of the Universe Masterverse New Eternia Battle Armor He-Man and Masters of the Universe movie Skeletor. Here he is beside NECA Toys Dungeons & Dragons Warduke and Grimsword. And finally, here he is beside Airborne and me from the G.I. Joe Steel Corps. So here it is, the 100th figure of the Valaverse Action Force Bone Collector version 2, and he is okay. He's a good figure, don't get me wrong. If he wasn't the 100th figure of the line, and if it wasn't this big deal being made about him, I honestly don't think I would have picked him up. As far as version 2s of a figure go, I definitely think this is a little bit of an upgrade from the first version. I think it's more interesting. I think it's more interesting to look at. And I do like the skull helmet that he has on this one much better than what he had on version 1. However, For being the 100th figure and having the premium price point, I'm not entirely sure what justifies the higher price point. Now, if you take a look at the Lux Blowback, that was a $55 figure. You got the figure, you got 3 head sculpts, you got all of the standard hands, you got the sniper kit, you got the new ghillie suit, you got a sidearm and an assault rifle in addition to the sniper rifle, and you had the standard body armor that the figures come with. That was all for $55. For this one, for $35, being a higher price point than the standard figure, I don't know what justifies that. This is a lot of reuse, which all of the Action Force figures are. I understand that. The only thing that's really new to this is the armor, the skull helmet, and the head sculpt. Everything else on this is reuse. I feel like there's even a few things missing from this. He doesn't have a sidearm, which took me by surprise. I thought he would at least have a sidearm right there. Or maybe even just a standard assault rifle so that he doesn't have to be toting around the minigun all the time. He doesn't come with a combat knife, but that's fine. He has the machete, I get that. But honestly, I don't understand the higher price point. I really think that for the higher price point, they could have thrown in the standard neutral face for Bone Collector, which they already have. They could have just remade it from version 1 and packed it in with this one. He has all the standard articulation that you come to expect from the Action Force figures. Heck, he's built on that same tried and true buck that they've been using since I think Wave 1. And it works for them. I get it. But like I said, I just don't see where the premium price point comes from other than being a blind box 100th figure. Now, having said that, he is a good figure. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not completely bagging on this. That I do like the color scheme on him. I like the paint apps on him. I do, like I keep saying, I do like that skull helmet much better than version 1. I just wish he would have come with a little bit more kibble to fill out the pack. Mainly the sidearm and the secondary head sculpt. But other than that, if this is something that you're into, and I know the Action Force, there is a very rabid group of Action Force collectors out there that just have to consume everything that Valaverse puts out for Action Force, and I'm not throwing shade on that. I love that people can be that passionate about something. Heck, I'm the same way with G.I.Joe, so who am I to say that's wrong? So I don't doubt that there are people that are scarfing up as many of these as they can. There was a 3-figure limit, and I even saw on Instagram that a lot of people were buying 2, hoping to get a regular one and a bloodied one. This also makes me wonder how many flipped figures there are going to be on eBay around the holidays when people didn't get their bloodied figures. I'm curious to find out about that. Let me know in the comments below what you think about Bone Collector version 2. Do you like him as a 100th figure? Do you like him as a premium price point figure? What are your thoughts on him? I'm genuinely curious about this because for a 100th figure, something to celebrate the 100 figures, I really thought they were going to come out with something unique and new. I understand the reason why he went back to Bone Collector and did a version 2 of Bone Collector. I just don't feel it for like a big milestone 100th figure. I know one thing I am going to do. I'm going to get rid of that minigun and I'm going to find him something else belt fed. Maybe I'll give him Tunnel Rat's belt fed since Tunnel Rat isn't using that. Or I'll get another Valaverse weapons pack and put a saw in his hands. I don't know, but that minigun, it's gots to go. Hello, before you click away, please remember to do all the YouTube things like share, comment, and subscribe. If you already did subscribe, big thanks to you. If you like the show and you want to help the channel grow, please consider becoming a YouTube member or a monthly coffee subscriber, where for $1 a month, you can get access to member benefits, such as the monthly members exclusive video. This month, it is the Fig 016 scale Cobra Commander. So until next time, my friends, play well, stay safe, stay healthy, and as always, thank you for watching.